Listening to this P. Diddy abuse takes me back to my abuse story. Mine's happened 2007 Labor Day, to be exact. And this is a long road to go down, so I'm going to take you guys with me. If you want to hear, stay. If not, clear the room. I was only in my 20s. I was literally only 27 years old. And yes, I was an Iraqi man. See, what had happened was I was working at a daycare with my daughter. And for some reason, the store across the street got taken over. And so did a whole lot of stores, corner stores in Ohio at the same time. They got taken over by Arabs. So this guy kept trying to talk to me. And we thought it was cute at first because, his accent. And I gave him my number, and before I walked across the street, he was hitting me up. And then he ended up meeting up with me at my place, and he told me that he was getting a divorce and all the stuff guys tell you just so they can try to get in your pants. And I was like, okay, all right, yeah. And we hung out a few more times, and he was cool, and ended up doing a deed. And yeah, he was very different at first, and then slowly but surely he started to be very, very controlling and protective, I thought, and watching over me and asking a lot of questions. And it was weird because I think this was either right before my sister's wedding or right after my sister's wedding. I got real sick, and no one want to even think about me being a serious person. They're just like, she just being extra, whatever. Lo and behold, I later find out why. But before we get to that, let's go to the first time he ever abused me. So, this is the craziest thing. He first abused me, I can't even remember why. It happened so quick and in the front yard on a real busy street. And what happened was, I think he thought that I was with my neighbor or something. I'm not sure. I don't know. Or I didn't answer something quick enough. I don't know. Something I'm not used to at all. And, oh yeah, that's what it was. He thought that I was out kicking it, smoking and drinking with my neighbor. And I had my daughter in my hand, and before I could walk to my apartment, we were outside, and he grabbed my daughter from me quickly so I could go inside. And I run up the steps inside to grab my daughter back, and that's when he knocked the S-H-I-T out of me, honey. I mean, knocked me out. And I was freaking out, like, what is going on? And I don't know, I just had to have my daughter. And I tried to run, and I was running back down the steps, and he grabbed me by my hair, and he started hitting and kicking me in my stomach, and it just got bad to the point where I finally got my daughter and got outside and ran and got into the Jeep. And I had nowhere to go at the time, so I was crying, trying to call someone that was the closest to me. And at that time, it was my dad. And I went to his place. Lord, that was a sad mistake, because his wife up here looking at me while I'm crying and beat up, talking about, well, you sure she all right? She might be okay. Just pretty much because he was saying he think I was smoking weed. And she looking like, well, looked like she was. I was crying, y'all, because I just got beat up. And this woman talking about, well, she looked like she just got through smoking. I was like, okay, enough of this shit. Like, oh my goodness. Meanwhile, that was the first time. And the second day was the day I found out I was pregnant by him. And boy, oh boy, that was a lot. And, it was people that was against him, but also at the same time, like, well, he might not be a good man, but he financially helped you. Like, are you kidding me? Because I was not with any of it. Like, I'm not with any of that. They used to say I'm a tiger, you gotta try to catch by the tail. Yeah, I'm an Aries. And at 26, when I used to be free and just like that, that happened to me. And not even all that, but I later find out that he was still married and tried to get me and his wife to be together, and I tried to be the one to bring everyone together and tell her the truth, and she turned against me, and she was even threatening to take my son away from me before he was even born. And it was, ooh-wee, I tell you, I went through a lot when it came to this, and it even got to the point where one time he followed me, stalkerish, and that was several times he stalked me and found me, and he was chasing people, and the whole neighbors were trying to save me and get him away from me, and police had to be called, and this man was crazy. One time he even beat the shit out of me so bad I had to go to the hospital, and the police came and got me because he called police first. And this is an Arab man who didn't even have his citizenship yet. And he had a white wife, and he would tell me the best thing he did was have a white wife, and they would always tell him overseas to get a white woman if you want to make it in America, or I guess to have everyone on your side or whatever. Craziness. But that's not the main sauce we're about to talk about. It was a lot of different things that happened, but the main one was the one that made the news. One night, it was like, right before Labor Day, and I was just out with my model friends because I was modeling for a radio station, and my uncle had my children, and the next morning I go to get my children, and he's right there in his Mercedes waiting for me. So I get in the car with him, and he said we're going to go by my place so we can get the truck that I was using, but we go right past my place to go straight to his place, and he showed me pictures of me, stuff that happened either before him or if I was just out with friends, and it was no bad pictures. It was just who is this and who's that, and I guess he felt some kind of way about it because we pull up at his place, and we go out and we go into the house, and I'm explaining away to him everything, and he's just like, okay, and he walks me back to the bathroom while he sits the kids in the living room, and we're talking, and I'm sitting on the toilet just talking to him, and out of nowhere he reached behind the toilet and grabbed a hatchet. And honey, when I tell you, he knocked the shit out of me. He kept hitting me. I guess I was unconscious, and but I do know he was running water for some reason, so I don't know if he tried to drown me at the same time. I'm not sure of everything, but I do know that he called the cops on himself saying he killed me, and he took my kids to my dad's store. And the ambulance came, I guess, 3 minutes later, and they said they couldn't believe I was alive because I guess my head was open and there was blood in places it shouldn't be. They said I must have got up to try to walk or something. And I wake up in the hospital days later to my aunt and my brother praying over me. And it's crazy because before then, him and his wife lied about me and my children, and they got my son taken away from me. And the lies, they finally figured out that they all were lies once I'm in my almost deathbed, and I finally got my son back. So we did the same thing they did to us to get my son in the first place, and that is one of the craziest stories. How could they even believe it? Abuse is real, and I just, no one sees it coming all the time, and it's not the easiest thing to get away from, because I was trying to get away from it. I wasn't even really with him. I was trying to get away from him, but he was a real stalker. He was the real deal, and you can't really run away from everything so easily, even getting a protection order, because I had a protection order against him when this happened. Man. So I feel what Cassie going through and all the survivors. I totally see and know and understand, overstand inwardly, outwardly, what everyone be going through when they go through some shit like this. So yeah, that's my story with that. If this get any traction, I'll do more, but if not, then that's my story, and just want to save somebody's life, and hopefully somebody see the signs once they start happening. because you'll start noticing that they will be more protective. It seemed that way in the beginning, are overshadowing you or ending up in places where you are. And even if you didn't tell them, they're there. Uh, them always checking your phone or asking where you're at, calling you all the time. It might seem sweet at first. Love bombing, uh, controlling you, trying to tell you what you can and can't do anymore, who you can't hang out with, not hang out with even your own family. It don't matter. Those are some of the signs. I hope that helps somebody. It sometimes can be difficult to see, but it's not always your fault. And most of the time, it's not your fault. Majority of the time, it's not your fault. I don't know a case where it ended up being anyone's fault that they got abused and they are the victim of domestic violence. But that's my story, and I hope it helps someone. All right, bye.